not least by Mary herself, celebrity. Her body was her greatest asset. When she came back from Paris with a new style of dress, everyone in the fashionable world wanted one like it. When she went shopping, she caused a traffic jam. What was she to do when that body was no longer admired and desired? Fortunately, she had another asset, her voice. While still a teenager, she had become a published poet. Because of her stage career, she had an intimate knowledge of Shakespeare's language and the ability to speak it. So as her health gradually improved, she remade herself as a professional author. Having transformed herself from actress to author, she went on to experiment with a huge range of written voices, as is apparent from the variety of pseudonyms under which she wrote: Horace Juvenal, Tabitha Bramble, Laura Maria, Sappho, Anne Frances Randall. She completed 7 novels, the first of them a runaway bestseller, 2 political tracts, several essays, 2 plays, and literally hundreds of poems. Actress, entertainer, author, provoker of scandal, fashion icon, sex object, darling of the gossip columns, self-promoter. One can see why she has been described as the Madonna of the 18th century. But celebrity has its flip side, oblivion. Mary Robinson had the unique distinction of being painted in a single season by the 4 great society artists of the age, Sir Joshua Reynolds, Thomas Gainsborough, John Hopner and George Romney, and yet within a few years of her death the Gainsborough portrait was being catalogued under the anonymous title Portrait of a Lady with a Dog. In the 20th century, despite the resurgence of the art of life writing and the enormous interest in female authors, there was not a single biography of Robinson. Before the Second World War, she was considered suitable only for fictionalized treatments, historical romances and bodice rippers with titles such as The Exquisite Perdita and The Lost One. In the 1950s, her life was subordinated to that of the lover she thought she was pursuing to France. A book on George IV and the women in his life did not even mention Mary's name, despite the fact that she was his first love and he remained in touch with her for the rest of her life. Finally, in the 1990s, feminist scholars began a serious reassessment of Robinson's literary career. However, their work was aimed at a specialized audience of scholars and students of the Romantic period in literature. When Mary Robinson began writing her autobiography, near the end of her life, there were 2 conflicting impulses at work. On the one hand, she needed to revisit her own youthful notoriety. She had been the most wronged woman in England, and she wanted to put on record her side of the story of her relationship with the Prince of Wales. But, at the same time, she wanted to be remembered as a completely different character, the woman of letters. As she wrote, she had in her possession letters from some of the finest minds of her generation: Samuel Taylor Coleridge, William Godwin, Mary Wollstonecraft, assuring her that she was, in Coleridge's words, a woman of genius. Royal sex scandal and the literary life do not usually cohabit between the same printed sheets, but in a biography of the woman who went from Mrs. Robinson of Drury Lane to the famous Perdita to Mary Robinson, author, they must. The research for this book took me from the minuscule type of the gossip columns of the Morning Herald in the newspaper division of the British Library at Colindale, in North London, to the Gothic cloister of Bristol Minster, where Mary Robinson was born. I stood below the incomparable portraits of her in the Wallace collection, tucked away off busy Oxford Street, and in stately homes, both vast, Waddesdon Manor, and intimate, Chawton House. In the print room of the British Museum, I pored over graphic and sometimes obscene caricatures of her. Via the World Wide Web, I downloaded long-forgotten political pamphlets in which she figured prominently. In the New York Public Library, within earshot of the traffic of Fifth Avenue, I pieced together the letters in which Mary revealed her state of mind in the final months of her life, as she continued to write prolifically, even as she struggled against illness and disability. I found hitherto neglected letters and manuscripts scattered in the most unlikely places. In a private home in Surrey, I opened a cardboard folder and found the Prince of Wales's account of the night he saw Perdita at Drury Lane, written the very next day, in the first flush of his infatuation with her. In the Garrick Club, among the portraits of the great men of the theatre who launched Mary's career, I discovered